So the webinar will be about what you can see currently on the screen, designing infographics and using APIs. We will address these two topics using examples from Panorama software. We won't get into the bits and bytes, of course, because we have only 40 minutes for that. Now, for some logistics, you can see currently my name on the screen. My name is Evgeny Klushin. I'm a solution expert at Panorama Software. As a follow-up to this, webinar, I will also write down my email, and you can send me questions, and if you want to receive materials, tutorials, and etc. And that's in regard to that. And of course, a recording of this webinar will be sent to you in the following couple of days. If you have questions, I will leave the last 7 to 10 minutes of this webinar for questions. So the first 30 minutes will be just me showing you this presentation and hands-on examples on the Panorama software UI and server. And then we'll leave time for questions and we'll finish with that. So this is in regard to some logistics. The webinar will be 40 minutes long, and as I said, in regard to questions, we'll have the last 10 minutes, and we'll do that using the GoToMeeting chat. So you will be able to write questions for me, and I'll answer them at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let's start. So as I said, the theme and the topic of this webinar is divided into two. We are going to speak about infographics and the use of APIs and web services. So these two subjects are a little bit different, but they are very much alike, because these are topics that power users deal with, and they are more for developers and less for the end users to address. So this is why these two topics are connected and addressed together. Let's start. So we're going to talk about, in regard to infographics, we're going to talk about, we're going to show you what is an infographic, why should we use infographics, what is the benefit of an infographic, and what we can do with that. We'll show very briefly how in Panorama Necto we are designing infographic, what is the best practice to design an infographic. So it will show you the best from all worlds of your data, and also, of course, analytics and visualizations, and examples and best practices. Okay. In regard to APIs, we'll talk about what is an API and a web service, which is basically the same, when it should be used, server-side APIs, client-side APIs, because there are different types of APIs when we're talking about BA or a software solution. Of course, this is in an architecture of a server-client architecture, and of course, for that as well, examples and best practices. Okay, so with that introduction, we will go into Panorama Necto and start talking about infographics. So what is an infographic? An infographic, or infographic, and how it is described commonly, is a graphic visual representation of information, data, and knowledge. Okay, intended to represent complex information quickly and clearly. Now, this definition is very important because it speaks about something that is missing in traditional reporting. And I'll repeat the sentence again: present complex information quickly and clearly. Okay? So using these infographics, which you can see currently a few examples on this sales dashboard, we can represent actually 3 measurements and 3 pieces of data on one screen, and the information is represented to the user very quickly and very efficiently, and of course very clearly. Okay, that's because it speaks the business language of this currently sales. It can be in different images if it was production or stock or healthcare, and etc. Okay, and in this the same way that we could have speak this language in a grid, we speak this language in a nicer visual and a more modern way. Okay, so this is in regard to the benefit and to the why it should be used and why it can be used. Now, when we should use the infographic. So when I talk about that, I divide it into 5 different use cases. So an infographic or an infographics and different components can be used, and like you see here, an example of an executive overview executive dashboard. So when you have an end user who is not an analyst that needs to sit on the numbers and see the bits and bytes and a drill through and a report and so on and so forth, it's an executive, a manager, or an end user for whom you want to set up an external system or external representation of the data, and he doesn't need to see the actual the bits and bytes. Okay, this is a very good representation of the data because he immediately can see your CEO can immediately can see that all of my metrics are doing okay. My revenue per salesperson has a problem. Okay, and we need to drill and to see what is the problem over here. Okay, so this is one first use case, an overview executive dashboard for top level management or even mid-tier management. Then another use case is use of infographic for analysis, for an actual analysis in the grid. So you can see here examples in Panorama Necto. We can use infographics both in tiles, like you can see currently as components on the canvas itself, or in the grid. So here you can see an example of infographics in the grid, and you can see here a very good representation of salespeople or that didn't achieve their goals, and salespeople that achieved their goals. You can see here this is also an actual infographic that shows you the trend for the past 12 months. And of course, using our infographics, you can add more grid visuals and design the visuals that will suit your needs. Okay, I'll show you another example over here. If we'll switch to the grid and add an infographic to the grid itself, and we will compare to a previous period. Okay, by comparing to a previous period, let's maximize this component. One of the most important aspects of business intelligence and analysis in particular is the need to compare a period to a previous period or to a parallel period, and to know if you're going down or going up, and etc. And you can see here these infographics, these tubes, can show you exactly in green if I'm going up and in red if I'm going down. And the actual filling shows me the magnitude of if I'm going down, it's 25%. If here I'm going up, and etc. So it can be also in addition to just visual representation of the data, it can act also as a very good analysis part. Okay, let's refresh that and let's see another example. Okay, so these were 2 use cases. One is an overview for executives and analysis in grid. Now, another very important use case for infographics, and this is something that we talk about a lot in this day and age, is of course the mobile. So in mobile, we are very limited in space, okay, in real estate on the screen. So we need to be as focused as possible. So one of the best solutions in regard to infographic or in regard to representation of data on a small screen is of course these infographics. And as you can see here, and this is actually an example of a wrist of a Fitbit. And if you're not familiar of what is a Fitbit is actually a wrist that you, a device, small device that you put on your wrist and measures your health metrics like how much steps did you walk, distance, how well you slept, and other activities. Okay, so same way it can be a representation of business and sales and healthcare metrics and so on and so forth. So another very important use case, as I said, is the mobile. So both on an iPad or on an Android device, on a smartphone, this kind of stuff can be very, very useful to see a quick performance if you're overperforming, underperforming, and how you're performing in regard to your KPIs. Now, this was one example. Sorry, the fourth use case for infographics is one that we really like to utilize and to take effect of is the drill-through capabilities. So a very important use case in BI is also to be able to see a problem and to drill through to see a more detailed view, a more detailed overview, or a report of this problem. So, for instance, if you see your active minutes and you're only 43% of what you set for yourself, you can see, for one example of a drill through, you can see a detailed infographic, a detailed view that shows you a spread of lightly active minutes, fairly active minutes, very active minutes, and how many minutes you set. You've been sitting down. So you see here a spread, a drill of an actual overview to a spread. So this is one example of a drill through. So you can see that here. You can see another example here of your hour slept and how many minutes you were restless in your sleep. So here you can see a more recreational or sports-like or healthcare-like examples. But you can think and you can deduct from that how you can do the same stuff, the same visualizations for sales and corporate usage. Now, a second example of a drill through is to see from this overview to, for instance, activity. And I would like to drill to see a more traditional report of this activity, to see how it's divided and how it looks like in a more traditional view. So this, you can see an example here, and I drilled from the activity to see a more detailed view with some more traditional UI. And this is a very light use case, but a very important one where you can see a high-level problem and drill and start getting into actions and acting accordingly. And of course, you can go and drill from here onwards to see a more detailed report. Okay, so I'll just summarize the five. Before that, there is one more use case that infographics is important for. This is a very good way to represent data that is not limited to conventions of chart and grid. Okay, so what we are familiar from reporting and from BI and from analysis is actually this: a grid, a chart, and different charts. With the infographics designer, you can represent data in any shape, form that you can run wild, and you can run wild with your imagination. So, for instance, this is one of our latest pilots that we're doing, an invoice summary. Okay, so we designed an invoice. So something that usually is not possible with a BI application, but using the infographics, we design an invoice over here, an invoice of electricity consumption for factories, and we will be able to send it and share it with the customers. Okay, and this is one of the current ongoing pilots. We can show it to you because the data is a mock-up data. It's just a structure of an invoice. Another example of something that is less traditional is the following: a representation of a factory, of a plant, and we can see here. Okay, and it's not this one. Just a second. Okay, Good. So we can see here a representation of an engine, of a compressor area dashboard for a factory. And you can see here if you have problems in a certain area, Necto colors that in red because all of these data links are connected to actual data from your cube or from your Excel or from any other database or data source that the infographic takes the data from. So this is another example of how you can use and utilize infographics in your organization. Okay, let's see another example of the same data. Okay, and this is the plant, and where you have problems, you will be able to see an exception, orange dot. Okay, so this is was the example of that. Now, we saw here a few examples. We saw here I talked about the benefits of the infographic. Let's see in Panorama Necto how it is actually designed. We won't design one from scratch because of time limitation, but I will show you some templates. So with Panorama, and if you install and you have infographics, we also give you templates with different gauges and different states that you can use and reuse for your own and connect to your own data. So you can see here this predefined infographics, and you can see that the designer is very similar to a paintbrush designer. So you can just move from place to place, play with the properties, and etc. etc. Okay, see here some more examples of more traditional gauges and representations of data. Let's see something that is related to healthcare. We designed exactly for healthcare. Okay, so this is our data representation for healthcare. Now a little bit about the Panorama Necto designer. So when we add a component, all of these are components, and you can see the components over here when you design the infographic. Every component here, every graphic has properties on the right pane, okay? And all of these properties are connected to data. So you can, for instance, let's put here, let's stand on this number. So the number can be just a plain number, but the number can also connect to your measurements. So you can connect the number to your measurements, set up conditions, format, write a formula if you want to do something more complex. If you don't want a measure, you want a specific cell, you can connect it to cell coordinates and have a very specific number, and so on and so forth. So as I said, you can run wild with your imagination and design whatever you want, and the benefits of the infographics are very high. So just for us to finalize these examples, I want to show you some more examples. Another example over here is of an martial arts promotion. This is a promotion that runs events around the world. These events, and this is can speak very good to organizations that are in publishing or TV or media and etc. So you can see here average attendance, pay-per-view, gate, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we can see that here. And of course, as I said, the data will change according to your performance, and the colors as well. And the last example I would like to show you is an example of a production dashboard. Production analysis, which is very similar to the sales dashboard that I shown you in the beginning, with some infographics in tile at the top, but speak of a different business. So you can see that here. So as I said, in the first regarding the first benefit that I mentioned, an overview. This is a very good overview for an executive that wants to see problems, want to act fast, want to talk about it, and even drill through to see a more detailed overview of a high-level problem. And with that, we finish with the theme of infographics. Again, at the end, I will have 7 minutes for questions, and we can go back to that and show more examples or more capabilities in regard to that. Now let's talk about the second theme for this web conference, which is the APIs. Now, what are APIs? Just a short introduction. If you're not familiar with the term, APIs, it can be called APIs, SDK, web services. This is the common terminology for what I'm going to talk about right now. But the general definition for that is just APIs. These are actually functions or parameters or methods with which we can control the application from outside or inside application using code to control or to do some different customization. Rob, I see the question. I'll leave time for questions in about 10 minutes after I finish with the APIs, and we have 5-7 minutes for questions. I will answer all of your questions. Okay, Rob? Okay, so let's just continue with the APIs. So as I was saying, APIs, functions, parameters, methods, web services. These are methods to control your application, your product, your software from outside of the system and from inside the system. And these are divided into client-side and to server-side APIs. Now, let's talk about why we should do that, why we should use APIs, why we should use code, when we should apply APIs. So the first and the foremost reason is that there is no product, a shelf product or a product as is that will answer all of your needs. Okay. So there are stuff that the product can do, there are stuff that the product cannot do, okay? So you have two options. One is to just live with that, and the other one is to use APIs or code in order to bend your system, which is not a very nice word, but it's actually what it is, to bend your system to do what the system cannot do as is, okay? So for instance, if you want to press on a certain something and another view will be sliced, and you want to do that, so you need to have a script. Or these are just examples from Panorama, but in any other product you have always you have some stuff that you want to customize. Or for instance, you want to send a part of your data as XML, and you want to embed it in a certain system, or you want to hide a button, or you want move a button from place to place. So these kind of stuff or functionalities that aren't built in can be achieved by customization and by this code, which is why we speak about APIs. Another and the third reason why and when you should use APIs and web services, and this is a very important one, when you need to connect your product to other products from your organization or for other methods in your organization. So for instance, you have a security system that is your peculiar security system that you want to connect and to pass parameters from your security system into Necto or any other product. Then you should be able to catch parameters from your system and pass them into your UI and maybe slice or dice. You want to do a single sign-on from your domain into your application, meaning using passing parameters. So these kind of stuff are also very important to do, and for that we have APIs. Now, APIs in a client-server environment, when you have a client side, which is the application itself, all of the stuff that we have here, the dashboard, and so on and so forth. Let's just open my API examples. Right? Okay, so there are client-side APIs, which are events that we catch around this in the client itself. What are the events or the data? Events and data can be numbers, values, members that I pressed on, events like pressing on a button or pressing on a member, or any other data that you want to catch and do something with this data. In Panorama Necto, I'll just give you our list of APIs. Okay, in Panorama Necto, under the Panorama server, you have you have a list of APIs, Necto API reference, and this is a very, very good list with all the APIs that Panorama Necto can use, events that you catch, and events that you do that you can, when you catch an event, you catch a certain value of data, okay, and methods with which you can do something, like an alert a certain value, or do something, or slice, or set selection, or any other stuff that you would like to do. You can go to this API reference and see many examples, code examples, and etc. Now, in Panorama Necto, and usually in these kind of applications, the language that you write with is the HTML or JavaScript. This is why we talk about client, that this is a client side. So the scripts will be written in JavaScript and or in HTML. So all of the common JavaScript methods are applied and are valid for Panorama Necto. Okay, so for instance, I'll give you a very good example of catching an event and doing something with this event. So for instance, pressing on this, okay, I caught the member, the caption of this TV and audio member, okay, and I passed that to the Bing search box, okay. How did I do that? There is a script, okay, and in Panorama Necto, the script of the warboard, or in the warboard level, we can enter a script, and as you can see, it's a common JavaScript script that catches using an on-grid member selection change, which is one of the APIs that we have in Panorama, and set URL, and this is another one of Panorama's APIs, so you can catch that and pass it here. And this is a very, very common and a very high level, but it's a very common use case where you catch an event and pass it. Now let's see another example. Get cube info. All of these examples are available on our partners server, Necto UK, and if you're not familiar with the server, you can, as a follow-up, send me an email and I'll provide you with a username and a password. This is a free public server with many examples that you can see and use. So for instance, we can add a button. This is another API. We can add a button to the header of the component. You can see here, which is just a representation of what I spoke about. This is we don't have a button that in Panorama that can show you the cube info or the data source info of this view component. So we can add this button, and when I press on this button, I can get a UI or a alert or a message showing me what is the server, when it was last updated, what is the cube, and so on and so forth. So this is another example of a client-side API. Now, and that's in regard to that. Server-side APIs or web services will be APIs or web services with which you will be able to pass parameters from other systems into Necto, render PDFs or Excels or images from Necto and embed them into any other external source. Remove buttons or change buttons inside the system. Remove components from the system and show them into Necto, or single sign-on if you would like to do that. So I'll show you an example, and these are APIs or web services that are usually written on the server itself. Now, if we talked about the UI, the common language in the client side, which is usually JavaScript or HTML. If we talk about the server side, it will be .NET or C#, also HTML sometime, and that's what is usually used on the server side of our product. Let's show you an example of that. Okay, I just wanted to be in a larger screen. Okay, so this is the Panorama Necto server. And over here we have, and let's just take a look on Necto again. So this is the regular Necto with all the components and all the stuff and etc. And if I want to, which has an authentication and a username and a password, if I'll open that, okay, so I'll be prompted with the username and password that I need to enter, and when I enter that, I have all of these stuff. So if I want to, for instance, one of the use cases that I would like to do, I don't want a username and a password. I just want to enter Necto, and I want to remove some of the buttons and some of the stuff over here. So I'll show you an example of this kind of application where I've written a C# code that uses our APIs. Let's open that with Notepad. We won't go into the script itself and into the UI, just in very in general. Okay, you can see here a code that uses Panorama web services and logs in with certain users behind the scenes. Okay, and it's very transparent to the user, so he doesn't need to log in. And in Necto itself, instead of prompting the regular Necto, I'm attaching parameters, which is to hide some stuff over here. Okay, as I said, I won't get into the bits or bytes of these. Just explaining you what did we do in this ASPX page. We are doing behind the scenes a single sign-on and hiding some buttons. So the end result of that will be, just a second. So the end result of that will be, I'll just, okay, you can see the same exact server, but I'm referring to a different ASPX page. Let's press on enter and see what will happen. Okay, so you see that Necto doesn't. So you see that that's the same server, but Necto doesn't prompt me a username and a password, and I'm opening directly. I'm opening directly to the warbler that I wanted to open, with no buttons, nothing on the upper side. So this is a very good way to embed parts of Necto into any other portal or domain, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is an example how you can hide stuff, how you can maybe you can add to this code passing parameters from another site, and so and etc. Okay, so we talked about client-side APIs, server-side APIs, and web services, and we have 5 more minutes for your questions. So let's do it quickly and efficiently. You can write me in this GoToMeeting box, okay, chat. So I'm here with you for another 20 minutes. So if you have more time than the time that was allocated for this conference, you can stay, write me questions, and we will I'll address all of them. Okay. Okay, so there was a question by Rob beforehand. I'm going over the questions that were asked before. When you have a diagram or an image like a compressor you showed, how do you layer the infographic on top of it? Okay, so when we design these infographics, and let's go to this example. Let's go from here. We can use we can use our predefined images, and we can use just a PNG on top of that. Add numbers and infographics like we are doing over here. So all of that is just an image, just a diagram, and we added to this image. We placed near this image our own infographics when we designed it. Okay, so let's go to the example. Okay, so you can see here the diagram, which is an image, and we added these arcs, these small dots on top of that, and we connected them to data. Does the image need to be PNG or JPEG? Everything works. Every type of image, JPG, PNG, and so on. In regard to the infographics themselves, in regard to the other stuff that I showed you, the images that fill, okay, that fill according to your performance, like again, like these. They have to be in SVG format, but these kind of diagrams, they can be JPG and PNG and all the other common or bitmap as well. So, but these that fill according to performance, these ones needs to be SVG. Okay. Have I answered your question, Rob? Okay, good. So we have several questions from William. Okay, so let's do it one by one. What are the things that affect the loading speed of the diagram shown, graph, animation, etc.? So a few things affect that. If you on client side, of course, your bandwidth affects that. The power of your server. Okay, if you're working on large sets of data, large cubes or data sources, and your server isn't up to the prerequisites, isn't up to the common standards, it will be a bit slower. If the server is up to the prerequisites, your analysis server, your data is aggregated well, you're working on a decent wireless or LAN network, it shouldn't be slow, and you won't have performance issues. So let me just summarize the parameters that affect the performance, because it's a good and important question. Sorry. correctness of aggregation of the data, server that is up to the prerequisites of the software that you choose, and of course your bandwidth. That's all. How many servers is needed for creating dashboard with Necto? In this case, the server data and the server dashboard. So it all depends. So the question was, I'll repeat the question, how many servers is needed for creating a dashboard with Necto? It all depends on your use case. Okay, and we have a prerequisite paper that we can send you, William. Generally, it can be all on one server, on one, if it's up to 50 users, the data set is not very big. It can be one server where we install our in-memory engine, the Necto application itself, and the Necto databases. For a very large production environment, we recommend to install Necto or on at least 2 servers, where on one server you have Necto application and databases, and on another server you have the Necto in-memory engine where you have stored all your data models. Okay, but basically for the UI itself, you have one UI for all users. Okay, and this is in regard to question number 2. Question number 3 is, can we access dashboards Necto with cloud technology? Yes, you can. As I said, there is, and this is one example for that, and we have already implementations of Necto on the cloud. This is a cloud server. This is a server that is public. You can log into this server. You can see the examples. You can see the dashboards. You can connect to data. On this server, you can even load your Excels, model them, and etc. If you want to connect to your own data, to your own cubes or SQL tables or any other database tables, you will have to open a port from your domain to the cloud domain. Okay, but yes, cloud technology is supported, of course. How about query performance for showing data in dashboard Necto? Does Necto use engine more like Tableau dashboard? Okay, so this the 4th question. How about query performance for showing data in dashboard Necto? Does Necto use data engine same like Tableau dashboard? Now, in regard to this question, let's divide it into 2. Panorama Software and Panorama, which is the company that developing and developed and selling Panorama Necto, in 1993 invented what you're familiar with today, Microsoft OLAP technology. So Microsoft Cubes, if we're talking about Microsoft Cubes, if we need to query to Microsoft Cubes, we query directly to the cube and retrieve the data with no semantic layer in between, with no need for data engine. We just query to the an MDX to the cube and retrieve the data very efficiently. This is when we talk about Microsoft Cubes or Microsoft tabular cubes or multidimensional Microsoft Cubes. If we talk about a different source, like just a relational source like Excel or SQL or Oracle, or let's just open that and see the list of sources, okay, something like that. We create an in-memory model and with our in-memory engine, very similar like Tableau, and query to this in-memory engine and retrieve the data exactly like we would do with a Microsoft Cube. But the difference between a Microsoft Cube and a relational source, with the cube, we don't need a semantic layer in between. And when we connect to these kind of databases or online services or files, we will create a data model with joins and measurements and hierarchies and all the aggregations that you would like to do. And then we query to that, to this in-memory model, and retrieve the data to the dashboard. So these are questions to, answers to your 4 questions. Have I answered everything, William? Okay. While you're thinking about other questions, I'm writing you now in my in the GoToMeeting chat my email. Okay. And you just received that. I'll write it again. So you can see my email over here. If you would like, this is my email. If you would like to get materials or recordings, access to our servers, and anything of the sort, price list, technical answers for technical questions, you can send me an email and I will follow up immediately. So this is in regard to that. You got it also to your chat, and you see my email in front of you on the screen. So I'll leave a few more minutes for questions, and then we will end this webinar. Any more unanswered questions in regard to the APIs, to infographics, web services, and etc.? Okay. Another question. How about the map technology in Necto? So let's open an example with the map. Let's do it from the server, and we have an example here. Let's take a look on this map. So here we see our map. Panorama Necto uses ESRI or ESRI technology to show the data on the map. We support locations from the continent level, country, city, state, province, address, zip code, longitude, latitude, okay, coordinates. So longitude, latitude, and coordinates. So all of that are supported to show in Necto. So if you have that in the data, it can be shown on the map. In regard to the data that you want to visualize, we have different base maps, okay, that you can see and drill. The data itself, as you can see, we can show the entity, the data itself, meaning the measurement or the number or the performance, and visualizations can be the following visualizations. It can be an area color, then you will show a polygon like a heat map, boundaries, shape color, shape size, shape repeater, text, and soon in the very near version we'll also have these infographics on the map. So we'll be able to show infographics and some pies on the map. Okay, guys, so if there aren't any further questions, I will stop the recording now. And I would thank all of you for taking the time for participating in this webinar. I hope it was beneficial for you. I hope you learned something. And I hope that we will be able to cooperate in the future. I'll send you my email. You will get the recording in a couple of days. Have a nice day, evening, morning, wherever you are. And I hope to see you soon again. Goodbye for everyone.